Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker. So today, with not so great news of the passing of actor John Amos. Many of you know him from Good Times, The Father. Also, he was on Roots, Coming to America, and a number of other productions. To me, because I grew up in a single parent home, I saw him as a father. So he was like a father in my head. I can even remember the time when he appeared on Monique's show and he issued some kind of command. I don't remember if it was like quiet or something like that. And the whole audience became quiet, you know? So this is somebody, even though I never knew him personally, never really got a chance to know him behind the scenes, because he was always on TV portraying the characters that he did, I connected to those characters. Okay. So it was a little bit of, ooh, it was a little hurtful when I found out about his passing. I expected it to happen because I could see on Instagram that he really wasn't physically doing so well. But what hurt even more is the fact that the family waited over a month to tell everybody that he passed away. And it's like, no, I'm not okay with that. I think that that's kind of foul to treat the fans that way. Yeah, I know the family wants privacy. I get it. But normally you wait 2 days or a week, but not a whole month and 2 weeks. And then let's be honest, another thing that just came up is that everybody in the family didn't know, particularly the daughter. She also didn't know that her father passed away until she read the post on social media. So, that part was actually more shocking to me than the actual death. And I'm disappointed. I'm going to be point blank and the period. I'm very disappointed that this has occurred. I think it's very heartbreaking. All right. But we kind of knew, in the months leading up to John Amos's passing, his family, particularly his daughter and son, there was, it seems, somewhat of a heated disagreement. John's daughter, Shannon Amos, she had raised concerns about her father's well-being. She, if many of you may not know this, some of you do, she actually used to be one of the producers on Yo MTV Raps, America's Most Wanted, as well as movies as I Am Legend and Blood Diamond. Anyway, she went ahead, as many of you know, she was seeking to take some legal action, and she set up a GoFundMe page as well as campaigned on Instagram, stating that she believes that John Amos, her father, was being financially exploited and was the victim of elder abuse. She wasn't very specific as far as who it is. She just said caregivers, right? So before I move on, let me just explain what is financial exploitation. Financial exploitation is the illegal or improper use of an elderly person's funds, property, or assets for personal gain. Now, elder abuse is any action or inaction that causes harm or distress to an older person. This can include physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. But when I saw that, I'll be honest with you, I was confused, because John came out himself and said that he disagreed with his daughter's assessment and denied the allegations. So, when I saw that, I was like, this is a mess. I can't deal with that. You know what I mean? There's so much that wasn't revealed at that particular time, and there still isn't enough that is really being revealed. Now, the brother, KC, he said that there were some people who were taking care of the father who was ripping the father off. Okay, KC himself, just a little background so that, for those of you who don't know, John Amos' son is actually an accomplished director. He actually received a Grammy for one of the videos that he did. Anyway, needless to say, the differences between the son and the daughter, as far as how the father should be taken care of, it grew deeper and deeper. All right. Another thing too that I found out. First, I was watching a video. I can't remember the person's name, but they played a tape that the Colorado police found, where John and Shannon were discussing and stating that KC, the son, had lost his mother's estate and squandered a lot of the money. It's also been noted, I did some background check just to verify that. It apparently that is true. I hate to say that. And I also found out that he suffers from bipolar disorder and he's battling a drug addiction. That I didn't know. All right. So, anyway, this is really something that unfortunately many families do experience. They experience rifts, sometimes right before and after the loved one passes away. And also, they also struggle with, mental health issues and substance abuse. Sometimes that also affects the relationship and the family dynamic. Okay. So, what should family members do? Because as many of you know, John Amos, he had homes in Jersey, which is where she's from, California, of course, Missouri, and Colorado. And then with the amount of money he still has, I don't believe all of his money is, spent. I believe he still has some money left. And I'm not sure what provisions he made. I'm pretty sure he did. But I want to just share, if there's any family going through similar situations, some of the things that you might want to think about in order to handle things like that. Number one, if you can get group therapy, family therapy, very, very important, because I have seen families where they bicker and argue and they never get along. Like they die enemies. It's crazy. They grew up together in the same house, brother and sister, and there's no love between the two of them. Or even if there is love, they just can't get along. They just they don't come to any type of agreement or whatever. That's why as a parent, it's imperative, especially when you see something like this, before you die, you have a trust created. Now, what you do in that trust is, for the child that has, mental health issues or addiction challenges, you don't want to give them direct control of the entire inheritance. And you don't want to actually just give them all of the money. Like a lot of parents will split the money up and say, you get this portion, you get, even portions. When you have a child that is this way, you might not want to give them all of the money up at once. And in a trust, you can appoint a trustee who can manage the trust, manage the money and the health and the housing and other essentials for that particular child. You, as a matter of fact, as a parent, can put in a mental health provision, which basically states, okay, like you can say something like, all right, you don't get no money until you get counseling. You don't get no money until you get rehab, if drugs is the issue. Okay. But if it's a mental health issue, rehab and drug treatment is not going to be the answer, right? So you might say that they have to stay in counseling. And you could also set it up where some of the funds are made so that they take care of the necessities, meaning they pay for housing only, so they could, let's say, a certain amount of money goes directly to the bank if there's a mortgage on the property, or it can go directly to, it wouldn't go directly to the landlord if they're renting, because people do move around. So again, that's something that the trustee who's appointed, they would take care of. They would manage and handle that. Okay. The other thing too is there are things called inherited IRAs. Okay, these are retirement accounts. It used to be now where you could set it up where every month until your child is 85 years old, it would pay them something like $800. Okay. However, Trump, he took away certain things within that inherited IRA for one to be able to do that. The Democrats, they may have fought to reverse it, but it's going to be difficult because, it would have to go back up to the judges, and Trump already appointed many of those judges. So reversing that would be difficult. The inherited IRA still exists, but as far as paying your child who may have special needs or who has a drug addiction issue, that I believe may have been canceled. I believe the way it is now is that all of the money has to be used up before, once that person has died. There's like a certain amount of time that money has to be used. There's no more, it sits in this IRA invested in, let's say, real estate, making all this money tax-free, and then that tax-free money goes, every month to your child, particularly your child that is either on drugs or has special needs. They got rid of that. Okay. Well, Trump did. So anyway, but inherited IRAs are still a good thing to do. And then also you have, of course, your life insurance policies. They're set up in many different ways. So I would just basically go to one that, and if you guys want one, I can recommend one for you. But basically, you want to speak to an insurance agent that can write up a policy for you. I know somebody who does it, and they have it set up where it's invested for you to make something like 5% every so often on the money that's sitting in that insurance account. Plus, you can also borrow against it, right? So definitely look into that. All right. And then the next thing, of course, is, you want to plan for care. Families should always plan for care for their elderly members and for yourself, because one day you might become elderly. I say might because I'm seeing so many young people die early. All right. Anyway, this by doing these things, it'll ensure and safeguard and prevent financial exploitation and abuse the earlier you do it. And of course, the other thing too is you have to set boundaries. You have to set boundaries, no matter what, and enforce whatever contract or whatever it is that you have. Because if you don't, there are people that don't necessarily respect what you have. And sometimes I'm finding that telling a person once what your boundary is not enough. Sometimes you got to repeat it over and over and over again, because family takes advantage more than anybody else. All right. So yeah, the Amos family tragedy, it's a stark reminder of the complexities that arise when dealing with elder care, mental health, and family finance. Okay. It definitely, and I hope I did a good, gave you guys somewhat of a blueprint as far as planning, communication, and legal protections. All right. Because it's a shame, because, John Amos, he gave us so much joy on the screen. And then to know that his real life had some challenges. I'll just put it that way. Because he probably did have, some, I know he had some wonderful moments in his life, but it's just that the way he died, it is not how I envisioned that it would be. I didn't think it would ever come to something like this. And I would just say, I guess we have to pray for Casey and his sister Shannon. Pray for healing, obviously, because if she didn't know that her father died, that means that she didn't even go to the funeral. Think about that. Her own father's funeral. She didn't get a chance to go because nobody told her. Man, that's rough. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you. Hopefully, the information I shared will help you make smart financial moves. Feel free to pass this amongst your friends. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.